Evening, everyone, and welcome to this Vic Akers Wonderland Road to Stadium Australia podcast, where we are dissecting the World Cup quarterfinals. Those of you hoping for an England dissection, too bad. We covered it in a separate pod, so make sure you go back and listen to that one. We will be covering the remaining games, which were Spain, Netherlands, Japan, Sweden, and Australia, France. And I think we can all say, from a drama perspective, we all got our money's worth. To join me through this intense debate and highly intellectual discussion is, of course, the magnificent Matt. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Really enjoying this World Cup so far, and to be honest, third time I've been able to watch a World Cup, and this has been the best World Cup so far. It's been so entertaining from start to finish, and I'm looking forward to seeing so much more of this World Cup. That's for sure.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, 2019 I thought was until this one the benchmark in terms of World Cup, in terms of coverage, in terms of viewership, in terms of the quality of the product. I think it's amazing how much this game has progressed in 4 years' time. And we're seeing this now, and we're seeing teams like Colombia. We talked about the England game. There are no easy games anymore. And we can say England got maybe an easier path to the semi-finals, but the teams they faced, they haven't made it easy. And that's really exciting to watch. And we've seen Germany go out in the group stage, which is always nice. Alongside the magnificent Matt is, of course, the lovely Lottie. Lottie, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm a bit fluey at the moment, as you can audio listeners can probably hear. I sound like I'm talking out my nose, which I technically am because I'm completely bunged up, which is gross. But yeah, I'm all right. I'm enjoying my first World Cup. I'm loving every moment of it. Yeah, it's just really good at the moment.
It's so good, and it does feel a shame that we know that this amazing tournament festival of football is coming to an end very, very soon. There are only
Does that mean I don't get any more football for breakfast and I actually have to work in the mornings?
Well, yes, I'm quite grateful for, because it means that when the football was on, and football is coming back with the men's obviously this weekend, there actually are games I can watch live, which is a nice change of pace. But we do have the quarterfinals, 3 games to get through, all with their intrigue and drama to pick through. First up, Spain versus the Netherlands. Now, this was a game that none of us watched live because it was because of FIFA and the USA and them being rubbish in the group stage and coming second, was at stupid o'clock in the morning. However, Matt, you did watch the highlights, as did I. What did you make of this?
It was one of those games where you thought the Netherlands were going to perhaps do what they did in the Euros, but I thought they were going to go one step further. If I'm honest, I didn't see Spain getting that far. If I'm honest, I thought at some point someone's going to turn up and then they'll just be knocked for 6.
Well, technically, Japan did that. Unfortunately, it was in the group stage.
Well, they knocked them for 4. Lottie's laughing in the background, ladies and gentlemen. But it was just one of those games where I thought it was a real shame that we didn't get to see the true Netherlands. And I don't mean that to be harsh, because this Netherlands team is a lot better than the one that was at the Euros. Bear in mind that they don't have some of their talent players in Vivian Miedema because of the ACL. There's been few other players that haven't been able to turn up.
Van der Donk was suspended as well.
Yeah,
another big loss.
And I have to admit, Jamie, a friend of the channel and the pod itself, we are hoping to get her on at some point as well, just to let people know, ladies and gentlemen, she's a fantastic person and individual. She just called it that without Van der Donk there, that it's not the same Netherlands, and it kind of feels like if this is our last opportunity at a tournament, who's going to be the one to step up? Because it's going to be tough. It's like Van der Graaf as well. It's her last. It was last tournament.
Yes.
And a huge surprise really that the Eredivisie, with the female Eredivisie, should I say, isn't actually professional. They're all semi-professional. But they've got some talented footballers for sure. The Netherlands do know how to create fantastic footballers.
For just so people know, in terms of the progress of the game, it was a game that the Spanish did dominate. They had a goal ruled out very narrowly for offside. There was an incredible save from Van Domselaar, whose stock just continues to rise, tipped onto the post, and the rebound came off the post as well. I think you're saying the real Netherlands. I think you do have an element of truth to that. Obviously, did very well against USA, but I think as you also in the USA, it's not the same USA 4 years ago. And I think there's an element of the quality that we all know Spain have, but never knew if we would properly be able to see due to their management. Whether that would come to the fore, and I'm afraid it did. Amazingly, with these two high quality sides, the opening goal didn't happen until 9 minutes from the end. The 81st minute, a Cal Dante penalty. I think it's her first goal for Spain. I think they were saying quite a few years. I didn't quite catch how long it was, but very well taken inside of the post. I mean, we're going to talk about penalties in quite a more in depth later on in the pod, but this one I thought was particularly good. But Van der Graaf, bit of a gaff from her. It seemed to be a bit of a stupid defensive decision, shall we say, to have the arm in that particular position, Matt, for a player of that experience.
Yeah, it's just a real shame, really, that it's one of those players, the most experienced players. As we've mentioned, some of these players, as experienced as they are, they have been they haven't been themselves. They've almost been terrorized by one or two players, and it just happens, unfortunately.
It was a bit of a gaffe, unfortunately. Van der Graaf, who is has now retired, has said she was going to retire at the end of the tournament, but has now retired. Gave away the penalty for a handball. It was given by VAR. It was a marginal call, which she was physically outside the box. Her feet were planted outside the box, but her hand was in it. Hand out, ball hit. A right decision by VAR. VAR did have an interesting influence early in the game, and it was very similar to the penalty that we got given, but again got chalked off in the Nigeria game. Linef Bernstein ran in behind. Was I think it's fair to say there was contact behind her, and she hit the ground. A penalty was given. Lottie, I did want to come to you. This is more of a question of VAR rather than of the incident, because I think people know we've had differing opinions on VAR. It looks like in the World Cup that VAR is not just judging whether there was contact or not, which is pretty much a very yes/no answer. We can see if contact's been made, but whether the contact was suitable enough or would generate would make the player hit the ground, shall we say, if it was sufficient contact. Do you think that's right or VAR, or do you think the decision of sufficient contact should stay with the referee? Is this over interference by VAR, shall we say?
In some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. It depends on the intent of the incident, because some things you can look at and go, yes, that was intentional, straight pen, no questions asked. And then there's incidences like you get in one of the other games, which we'll talk about later, where the player can't do anything about the ball hitting her arm in the box. There was absolutely no intent in that. But it depends on the point of view of the VAR resistant and what the ref thinks, because they can disagree. The ref can, at the end of the day, it lies at the referee's door, regardless of what the VAR say.
Yeah.
Most of the majority of the time, you need to look at it, but when it played back by screen, the decision is usually changed because you get the accurate view. You don't get the view from where you're standing on the pitch, so there's been some questionable calls in this quarterfinal round, to put it that way. For me,
there has been. I'm of the opinion that VAR should be used to determine if genuine contact has been made, However, I feel the best person to judge whether they're whether it's enough to knock a player down or whether anything's happened, the ref is there. They're the closest person to the incident. I feel that the sufficient nature of the foul should lie with the ref. But VAR, obviously, they overturned the Rachel Daly decision. They overturned this decision with Bernstein running in behind. The Netherlands struggled to impose themselves on this game, and you thought if they were going to get anything to go their way, it would have been that. They didn't get that break. Spain did. Now, the game then takes a rather intriguing twist because Andres Jonker, no doubt inspired by Jonas Eidevall, decides to play the Jen Beattie card and moves Van der Graaf into auxiliary striker mode. Now, this goal is fantastic, also because Victoria Palova, who I think we can maybe say she's moved to wing back in this World Cup, we could probably say is maybe a quieter World Cup than maybe we hoped, pulls out an amazing through pass that just annihilates the entire Spanish defence. Van der Graaf runs clean through. This is a defender we're talking about here. This isn't a striker. This is a defender. Races onto the ball and lashes it past the keeper. Full, bottom corner side netting. It's a brilliant finish on the 91st minute. Instant redemption. The game goes to extra time. And 30 minutes, it's anything can happen. For me, obviously, in these situations, I'm hoping for penalties because penalty shootouts are great fun, as this World Cup has proved. Especially when you don't have a horse in the race, otherwise they're rubbish. But this sadly didn't go to penalties. There were chances for both sides. There was a cross that came in, I think, in the first of extra time that Lieke Martins almost got onto. Bernstein, who thinks had quite a good World Cup, had a chance where she danced through, drive across the keeper, just missed the far post, and I think it was minutes later. But the thing is that it's Paraluelo race through. It's actually a really good solo goal on the break, left channel, dances through the breaks down channel and then dances through defence, and then it's just a drop of the shoulder. If you think back to when, again, men's football analogy, but Aubameyang's winner in the FA Cup final, when he was facing up a defender and he just dropped the shoulder, shimmied over, and had that space. It didn't go over the keeper. In this instance, Pariello drops the shoulder, gets a space, and drives it beyond the keeper, and that was it. Spain were through. 2-1 winners, probably worthy winners, and that's only their second knockout win at a World Cup. They are in the semi-finals. They are in contention. Before we wrap up on this one, I'm going to get your opinion on both of them. Matt first. Are Spain going to win it? They've got the talent, but can they do it? Can they actually win their first World Cup?
I think we've seen it in the celebrations where all the players are celebrating with each other, and then the manager tries to get involved.
Right. So can I just stop you there, Matt? There is a clip going around. I think it's the one you're on about, where he's on the set. So Jorge Vilda, not the most popular man in the world of football, is on the centre circle. He's walking up with a team, and all the players around him are celebrating with each other, and he's very much in his own world. No one is coming to hug him or shake his hand or cheer, as you might see our players just
put his hand out and like high five a player as well, and he's just left hanging, which is brilliant to see.
There's an old meme of Steve McLaren when he was at Newcastle manager, when he's like trying to wave some of the players to come over and hug him, and no one is paying attention. I did feel a bit of pity for him, but that sort of went away and I realised sort of what the manager is. This is a manager who thought that the earthquake that hit New Zealand was not bad, but the bigger earthquake was Spanish football, which he said in a post-match press conference, which quite frankly I wasn't that impressed with. But as you were saying, Matt, sorry.
Yeah, no, it just goes to show you really that if Spain do go and win it, they'll do it in spite. But the problem is, if they do go and win it, then it kind of gives them a reason to say, oh, you've won it without these 15 players that are supposed to be world class. It just feels like it's almost like a catch-22. There's no right answer. Just from personal opinion, I don't think Spain will win their semi-final, mainly because the opposition that they face,
which we'll get to in a minute.
Just on the experience alone, this is Spain's first ever semi-final. Correct me if I am wrong, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments.
That's right. They got to a semi-final in their first tournament, but it was like a group stage straight into semi-final, so it didn't really. Yeah, it's the second ever knockout win. Put it that way. They are in new territory here.
it just goes to show, really, doesn't it, that you just need to have a manager that you have a lot of faith with. The Netherlands had that in Jonker. We've got it with England.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, really, that if you don't have a manager on your side, can you still win a World Cup? And that is the main question, if I'm honest.
Well, I'll come to my opinion in a minute. Lottie, I'm going to quickly jump in with you. Obviously, you've seen a lot of Spain. Do you think they can win their first World Cup at the first time of asking? First, can they get through the semi-final, hit the final, and win it?
Again, this is the situation I was talking about with Japan. No, who did they play last? Switzerland. Although Amanda's getting the goals, she went quiet for a game, and I wasn't really confident in the front girls. I know you've got the likes of Stina up there and Fredolina Rolfo, and their goals are coming from everywhere, but they're not as fast. It takes them the time to settle down in the game, and that's what concerns me. And Spain will play that on full advantage.
Yeah.
I've got to say, though, this whole tournament, the teenagers have lit up the field, and I think their weapon that's going to undo Sweden is going to be, is it Salma Parallelo?
Yeah, the one who scored the winner, the late winner in this one. Yeah, she's the young talent everyone's talking about.
She was against Roma. That's when I first saw her in the Champions League.
Yeah.
She had an absolute wonder strike. I think she scored the only goal in that game.
The
amount of shots that Roma had in the game, they should have won it. But we sort of saw her as an emerging talent, and she's been very good through this World Cup. So I think she's going to be the key to Sweden's undoing if they're not careful.
Yeah, just to say, spoiler alert, we will come on to the Sweden-Japan game next. My feeling is if Spain do win, Spain has has got probably the most talented team in the World Cup. Certainly the team that's left. I just feel if they win,
and they're not full strength.
No, I'm not full strength. And this is the maddening thing. It's a team that has sort of been limited by their own management, by the fallout between the management and the players, and it's a question of, it almost becomes a question of morality rather than of talent. I just think it wouldn't be morally right if Spain won, because it would give further justification to Jordi Vilda and his managerial style and the practices of the manager of Spanish FA, and the fact that you can leave out so many world-class players to a World Cup. I don't know, it just feels wrong. But football doesn't work like that. It's a results business. It doesn't lead into sentimentality and fairy tales, as England fans we found out. But they are very talented, and we will pick apart the team. I wonder who it was. Who they will play in the next round right after this break.
England will pick up. Forward comes Taylor. Taylor scores for England.
And welcome back. What a lovely break that was. Next game on our hit list is Japan versus Sweden. But before we do that, just wanted to get a quick sense check from Matt and Lottie on where you think the Netherlands will go next. A lot of talent in that team, obviously. Victoria Pelova and Vivian Miedema, we both love Arsenal Gunners, and we have plenty of Dutch fans who do tune in. Obviously, quarterfinals, bit of a disappointment, but I think we can say they had a pretty good World Cup with a good few scalps. Do you think this team can, at the next Euros or World Cup, maybe go one step further? And are you impressed with some of the young talent coming through? Lottie, I'll come to you first.
Absolutely. I mean, Vivian Miedema will be fully back up and running by then. I know one player doesn't make a team, but they missed her so badly. And I tried to kind of look at where I've watched them in highlights, tried to look at them. Okay, this is a team without Vivian Miedema. This is what they're going to look like. This is what's going to happen. And they actually did really surprise me, especially in the form of Jill Rod. Not her greatest fan, but she did get a couple of good goals. But I still think they're missing that sort of that role that Viv plays. They haven't got anyone to fill that space yet. It could come in the form of Victoria Pelova, but it depends on her experience in the next 4 years.
Do you think if Viv was fit, the Netherlands would have gone further?
Potentially, but it depends on her form. It would have been all dependent on form for this season, but I can't tell you that because we lost her.
Sadly, sadly, it is the case. Lastly, Matt, I was going to quickly come to you. Obviously, Jill Roord, top scorer for the Dutch in this World Cup. how excited should WSL fans be to see her turn up for Man City next season?
Well, this depends on which Man City are we going to see. Are we going to see the Man City that decides to crumble and fall at the most crucial moments, or is this going to be the Man City that turn around and say, look, they need to change over? Gareth Taylor's got 1 year left on his contract. Well, renewed his contract for another year. There are key players that are going to be out of contract. For those that are still wondering, Ali Roebuck still has not signed for Man City.
Yeah.
On an extension so there's players that are quite key to City that will be in their last year. I'm pretty sure Alex Greenwood is also one of them. But when it comes to Jill Roord and Man City, I don't know where she's going to play, if I'm honest. Is she going to? Because I don't think she goes through that of the front three. I think she's going to end up being that attacking midfielder for them.
It'll be interesting to see where she does slot in, because we know Gareth Taylor sticks very much to his fixed front three. Shaw, Hemp, Kelly, Hasegawa in the midfield. Maybe we'll see her in a double pivot. But for someone, I hadn't been a big fan of Jill Roord. Wasn't a fan of her at Arsenal. Didn't think she shone, but I think we can all agree getting 4 goals at a World Cup is no mean feat. I'm very intrigued to see how she does at Man City next season, if she can carry that form over. One to keep an eye on for next season, but we are talking about the World Cup. We shall move on to the World Cup and on to Japan versus Sweden. Sweden, very much the efficient tournament progressors that they are, another World Cup to the quarterfinals, beating the favourites and reigning champions, the USA, into one of the best dramatic penalty shooters at the World Cup, which I'm sure will not be beaten anytime soon, although we'll see. Wink. Japan have played, I think we can all agree, the best football at the World Cup so far. Amazing, beautiful attacking football. Destroyed Spain in the group stage 4-0. And in fact, we were talking about Spain earlier. The notion that a team that got battered 4-0 in the group stage could genuinely win the World Cup, that still frazzles my brain slightly, but that's how tournament football works. So we had Japan, brilliant football, attacking football, beautiful football. Sweden, rigid, defensively strong. I think they'd only conceded 1 goal at the World Cup so far, and that was against South Africa in the opening game. In fact, they conceded first and then he came back into it. Very strong with set pieces. Sort of a clash of styles, sort of resilience versus attacking talent. Lottie, you're fortunate enough to watch the game all the way through. How did it go for you?
Do you know what? I was really disappointed. I've been enjoying watching Japan. I was just really bitterly disappointed because I didn't turn up till the second half and half an hour to go. And it was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I understand the Swedish girls are a lot taller than the Japan girls. You could see that massively. I never noticed it before, but that shouldn't be like an intimidation factor because they were all really good at playing the game. Sweden were just completely on them from the start, and they were suffocating them. They weren't giving them the space they wanted, and it was. I think it got to the point where they were frustrated, but I just don't know why it took them an hour to get into gear, so to speak. I don't think they had a shot in the first half on goal at all.
I must confess, I wasn't able to watch this with them. I was listening on my drive home from work, and it sounded like a terrific game. And I think a bit of a surprise as well. I think the first goal I missed. I think I got into the car and was on my way, and I tuned the radio on, and I think I just missed the first goal, scored by Arsenal defender, soon-to-be star striker Amanda Illested. That is 4 goals. That's right, 4 goals at the World Cup. Scrambling in from a set piece that Japan failed to clear properly. Matt, you were able to watch this game as well. Japan underperform, or did Sweden simply outgame them?
I don't think it's that. I think it's just a bit of both, if I'm honest. Both teams. I think there was a little bit of luck on Sweden's end because Japan failed to clear it 4 or 5 times. Basically, it was a pandemonium in the box. The ball was just swinging about, and eventually the ball just. I don't think it's Stina that tries to shoot, but essentially that final ball just Amanda just sort of creeps in at the back post and goes, "Oh, the ball's there. I can bike it home."
Smash it home.
And away she does. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are sort of sitting up, going, "Right, okay, we've got a player now." I do have a few questions about what's going to happen next season with Amanda, tactically, but I think we'll talk about that later down the line.
Yeah.
From World Cup point of view, when you got a centre back that is free scoring like that, it's kind of scary. It's another weapon at your disposal. No, I know I didn't use Arsenal that time. Lottie is livid, by the way.
So disappointed.
It's interesting you mentioned Stina. She did have a very good chance to score just before then, out-muscled the Japanese defender and sadly skewed the shot wide. Only one goal for Stina at this tournament so far, and I do. And that was against Italy in a 5-0 battering against an Italy team that, as we've seen, aren't that great. It's been a disappointing tournament for her so far. We spoke about Russo obviously in the England pod, and she's only got 2 goals. Stina's only 1 behind. But have we seen enough from Stina at this World Cup so far?
Yes and no. From the work rate and what she does on and off the ball, she's been brilliant, and she carries that on when she's with Arsenal. It's just sometimes it doesn't work in your favour if you're trying to press out wide, for example, and then all of a sudden you win the ball back. No one's in the centre to put the ball into. I'd like to bring up the Wolfsburg game when Lotte crosses the ball into Jen Beattie and Jen Beattie scores, and Lottie's favourite moment that happens afterwards, and she waves and dances. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I think she'll be disappointed that she hasn't got a few more goals. I think she'll be hoping she's got at very least 2 more games to make sure that she gets some more goals. Wouldn't do the worst thing in the world to score a few if to come the end of the tournament. If she doesn't, I think she'll be a bit disappointed that she's only come away with 1.
Can I just say how wrong it is that Stina Blackstenius is sporting the number 11 for Sweden? She should be sporting the number 25, and maybe that's the source of power. Once she gets the Arsenal shirt back on with the proper number on the back, I think she'll be absolutely fine. But Sweden, they didn't sit on the 1-goal lead. They pushed on. They got the second. Was given a bit of assistance by VAR. Lottie, right call? Was it a handball?
Absolutely not. There was absolutely no intention in there. That is one of the biggest questionable calls of the tournament for me. I looked at it and I thought, no, where else is she supposed to put her arm? She hasn't put her arm to it. It was the ball to where it landed and hit her arm. And I think that was the main confidence knock for Japan. For me, like, I understand why it was given, but I also feel like it was extremely soft and given away, if that makes sense. I know I do completely disagree with it, but I understand why it was given.
My feeling with these handball decisions, and we're going to disagree on this, is there's an element of, yes, not all handballs are like Paul Scholes batting one in against St. Petersburg. It's like Maradona deliberate.
Extremely soft.
But the problem is when you're not intentionally handling the ball, but your handling of the ball does affect the game. In this instance, it bounced off a hand and stopped a Swedish player getting to it.
As I said, I understand why it was given. I just thought it was soft. I get that.
I remember there was a incident, I think it was when we played Reading in the FA Cup semi-final. Debussy was jostling on the wing, and he was arms out, because defenders do this stupid thing where they put their arms behind their back, but he had his arms out, and the ball was played up, hit his arm, and it stopped the cross coming in. Penalty wasn't given. I look at that and I think that's clear handball. Not saying he was trying to handball, but sometimes a ball to hand can have an impact. I saw the replay.
It is my thoughts in the moment. I haven't actually watched her back at all since, just so you're aware.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I saw the highlights, and
so,
it's harsh because her arm is reasonably close, but it has struck her hand, and it is a clean contact on the arm. Penalty dispatched by Angadal, 2-0. I think Sweden hit the post as well through Ilestedt, not Ilestedt. I think it was for Aslani. Sweden on top, and I think Japan managed to finally wrestle a bit of control back into the game. They started to get their passing going. As Lottie said, it took them 60 minutes to turn up, and I think that's the real travesty. We didn't see enough of the real Japan. But 76 minutes in, they are given the chance to take control, to get a chance and score. Matt, I asked Lottie the question earlier on VAR. For this one, was this a penalty? Again, this one seems soft. Should VAR overturned it, or was it the right decision to stay with it?
I think just from a neutral's point of view, when you look at it, you kind of wanted Japan to score one at the very least to make it a little bit more interesting. As Lottie said, the game was sort of going away from them, and they just didn't really turn up. And because they didn't turn up, they caused a little bit of issues themselves. But for that, it's at 50-50. I apologise to everyone listening. That was really bad. I don't know where that accent even came from.
50-50. So it was a 50-50 challenge. It was a coming together, as they say in the football parlance.
Either it's given or it's not. It's not like one of those where you could argue either way, and you could probably argue that one until the cows come home.
My problem with that is that's given, and then there are decisions like the Linus Bernstein clash that happened in the Spain Netherlands game, and the Rachel Daly one in Nigeria. And this is what I was sort of referring to with Lottie, is that those are 50-50 clashes, which I feel should be umpires' call, as they say in cricket. Is right? There's definitely contact, so stick with decision. If there's no contact and they died over, for me there's even less contact in this decision. And the fact that VAR has intervened at all, and that's the frustrating inconsistency. And knockout football, these fine margins are everything. Japan get lucky, I would say, in this one, but they've upped their tempo, they've played a bit better. Lottie, were you confident that Yuki was going to score it?
Do you know what? It wasn't a penalty for me. And it was like,
no, it wasn't.
She fell over her own feet, so it's like karma kind of bit her in her backside. Do you know what I mean? And it was. I'm glad she didn't. I'm kind of glad she didn't score it because she didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's another questionable call by VAR, and this is the most question marks I've had over VAR over the tournament in this game.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, hang on a minute, you tripped over your own feet. Like
we have been quite complimentary of VAR throughout the tournament.
Absolutely.
It's been very
I've
good.
actually really enjoyed it, and in the fact that they announced their reasons. Rather than waiting for the commentators to speculate, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I actually quite enjoy that because it's clear and it's concise. Like it's like a sentence, but it doesn't make a difference.
And we get to hear the ref, who have some voices that I don't think we expect to hear when they speak.
I know, absolutely. Do you know what? It's like, have you ever looked at some of our referees and thought, I wonder what their voice sounds like?
It's not what you expect.
Exactly.
With a high pitch, you don't expect it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So funny,
I think it was. I think social media ended up ripping. I think it was one of the Asian referees in one of the New Zealand games. And Herb, I didn't expect that sort of Kiwi accent to roll on her tongue. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting a bit more high pitch, but it's really strange not to hear what you expect to hear.
It is. UK, sadly, her penalty crashed off the crossbar, went for the rebound, and there is a little, and immediately can see the free kick, because there's a little unknown rule with penalty takers that if because you actually become offside, if you take a penalty, keeper doesn't touch it, comes off back of the wheel back to you, and you tap it in, that's actually infringement. You can't actually do that, which is a little.
No, keeper's got to touch it.
Exactly. I remember, I think it was Mitrovic of Fulham at Newcastle scored a goal doing that and was off celebrating, and they couldn't understand why being talked off. And it's one of those little novelties. And in this instance, he headed it wide. In this case,
I'm sure there was an incident in this World Cup as well.
Was there? Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so. It was a penalty taken, and they had to check if the keeper touched it before the person scored the goal. Can't remember what game it was. I'm sure that happened.
I should say an interesting thing of this World Cup is how many penalties have been missed. It's not that penalties don't necessarily equate to goals. I mean, we had one missed and we had to retake it, and it's Stanway. And if we count,
that was because the keeper jumped off our line.
Yes,
we got lucky.
We got lucky. Interesting. Stanway has technically taken 3 penalties and missed 2 this World Cup so far, including
out of 8. She's missed 1, so I'm not complaining.
We are going to talk more about missed penalties because there were quite a few in another game, which we'll get to in a bit. But Japan kept the pressure on, and we saw an incredible moment, a free kick. Musovic, we've said, has probably been one of the best keepers of this World Cup so far. I think we can agree, had an amazing game against USA. But Matt, this moment, I think we all thought the ball was going in the net when it canned off the crossbar, cannoned off Musovic, and then just, to reuse your own word, pandemonium. Were you as flabbergasted as everyone else when the ball hadn't crossed the line?
You know what? It's so funny. I know we all game and things like that, but it's things like that happen in FIFA where things like that will happen, and then the ball just slowly trickles across the line. I mean, I found it quite funny when it happens in the men's game when Jorginho scored that goal against Villa, and it bounces straight off his head and back into the back of the net.
Well,
I was just loving it.
Yeah,
it's things like that. But the fact of it, she somehow managed to hit her back, and then she still managed to pick it up and carry it. It does feel like Musovic has been the. I don't really want to call her carrying the team, but it does feel that way because I'm pretty sure this is another Player of the Match award that she's collected at this World Cup.
No. Someone called Amanda Illestead, I believe, picked up that award yet again, and rightly so. But she's certainly been one of the best keepers of a tournament. And yeah, I think we had on the radio, we had I think it's Karen Bardsley on CoComs who was who could speak for quite a while about Musovic sort of predicament in that situation and what can easily happen. I mean, we mentioned Jorginho Martinez. That was an incredible moment at Villa Park, and it did feel like something similar was happening. As it turns out, it was irrelevant because Japan did finally score. Hayashi, great bit of work. I think it was with Endo on the wing, got the cross in. The Sweden defence finally failed, didn't clear the ball, and it's a fantastic finish. Hayashi just smashed it past Musovic, she's completely in no players' land, and yeah, buries it 2-1. Lottie, at this point, are you thinking Japan are going to pull it out of the bag? They're going to do it?
I had a little bit of hope for them. I'll be honest with you. It's always the hope that kills you, and I think that was the heartbreaking thing for Japan because what we've done on this, I know I've particularly done it. Praise them for their balance in their youth and their experience and the way that Saki Kuramagaya has led this team and what could be her potential last World Cup. I have a feeling it is, but there hasn't been an official announcement as far as I know. But it's a little bit disappointing, but they could bring something to the Olympics. They could bring something to the next World Cup because the foundations were laid from what you've told us from the 2019, or was it the Olympics before that? I can't remember.
Well, they went full youth in 2019 because they were aiming for the Olympics, and that sort of
so it was the World Cup and then the Tokyo 2020. Sorry, I just think about that.
The Olympic, unfortunately, the Olympics was a bit of a flop for them tournament wise. I think this time around we've all been surprised by Japan, pleasantly surprised, shall we say, by Japan.
Absolutely, I've really enjoyed it. But there's something they're going to build on. If they keep building the way they are and they keep the manager they've got in place, I think they could do well in the next European tournament. Well, European World Tournament.
World Tournament, European, or at the Asian Cup. At the Asian Cup.
A lot of these players are also still playing in the Japan League, so I have a feeling that we might see a few of them come over into Europe a little bit more now. Whether it depends what's going to happen as well, but I have a feeling that we're going to see some more Japan players in Europe in the next couple of years. Whether or not they're playing Champions League football is another question.
I know that after 2011, when Japan won the World Cup, there was a bit of an influx of Japanese players into the league. I know Arsenal snapped up one or two. I'm not saying I don't think they were very successful at Arsenal, but I know it did drive a bit of recruitment on the Japan side. I've really enjoyed watching Japan, but I've always felt that if they came up against a team that could neutralise their primary method of playing, which I think Sweden did with their defensive shape, but the way they were, and not allowing Japan to play in the manner they did, I think Japan never had what they say a plan B, and by the time they were able to sort of figure it out and get going again, it was too late. They were 2-0 up. They could have scored their penalty. They could have maybe got it to 2-2. I think they'll see this as a missed opportunity. Considering that the USA are out, it's very much an open playing field, and I think looking how the lines have all been drawn, if they'd won, they would have played Spain. They know how to play Spain, although obviously no two games are alike. And then, I think they would have given anybody a game in the final. It is a real shame, but I'm really excited for Japan. I'm really excited to see if they can, as you say, Matt, build upon this. There's a lot of younger players in that team, young players, exciting players. They're only going to be better in 4 years' time. I think a lot of us overestimated, especially Japan in the last World Cup in 2019. I think we underestimated them this time around. I think the pressure's going to be back on them next time, and I think people are going to have very high expectations for them, and I'm really looking forward to it. Before we wrap up on this, Hinata Miyazawa is currently leading the Golden Boot charge with 5 goals. The only players left in contention who can overtake her are the likes of Bonmatí and Hermoso and Redondo with 3 goals, all with Spain, and a certain Amanda Illested of Sweden with 4. Miyazawa on 5. Is she going to hang on to that Golden Boot, or do you see Spain or Sweden potentially overtaking her, Matt?
I'm going to say no at this moment.
You think she's going to lose her title?
Oh no, she's gonna hold on to it.
You think Miyazawa Golden Boot, Lottie? Miyazawa Golden Boot, yes or no?
I have no clue. There's 2 games and there's still 40. Well, we've got the final, got semi-finals.
Yeah.
You've got 4 teams in this. It can go any way. We're getting a brand new champion that we've never seen before.
Yes, we are.
So I'm going to say yes. I backed her, but I'm saying yes, she's going to lose it. Although she does hold a joint record with her country now for the goals in the most goals scored in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's joint. I read some. I think it's joint, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah.
Thank you for confirming the
Sour.
Yeah. So she's got that record, which it means her name's down in history. She's not going to be forgotten. But she's going to lose that Golden Boot. If she had 6, I'd be sitting there, yeah, maybe, but no. Because she was kept so quiet in that Sweden game, it was just virtually impossible.
So we know that Sweden and Spain will face off each other for the first semi-final. Before we move to the break, just looking briefly forward, Sweden or Spain, which way are you falling on? Lottie, are we going to see us Spain first final or Sweden returning to do it properly this time?
I want the Swedes to come home from qualifying, but I want them to do well.
Well, the problem is that they're playing all the way to either Saturday or Sunday, so we can't get them home any earlier now. They're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're playing midweek, so technically we could. I'd have a month off. Sorry, I'm going to back Sweden. Sweden
to beat Spain. So Sweden in the final. Matt, which way are you going to go on this one? Are you going to back the Swedes or Spain and their talents, as they say? Are they going to do it again?
This Sweden side will have learned a lot of lessons from the Euros and the Olympics. They want to do it again. I'm sure they want to try and say to the world, this is Sweden. This is the origins of women's football for them. So I think Sweden's going to definitely do it. I don't think Spain are going to have that opportunities that they had. It's almost going to. I have a feeling it's going to feel like the Japan game.
Well, Sweden, they are a bit like England, always in the semi-final. They were in the last World Cup, as we know. They were in the Euros. I remember that because I was there and we beat them. So yeah, semi-finals for them again. Because they get to semi-finals, but they never win them. Much like England at the World Cup. Apart from I think it was 2000. I want to say 2003. I think it was when they got to the final against Germany. I think lost on the golden goal. I don't know. I think Sweden are so experienced, and they've done. It's the old adage of they've got this far and they haven't played well, but they're so defensively strong. Just Japan goals only the second goal they've conceded. Very strong on set pieces, and you think a team like Spain who are going to dominate the ball, set pieces are where I think they could be got at. That seems to be the logical focus of attack. I don't know. I want Sweden to get to the final, and maybe that's overruling my head. But I think, I want Sweden to get through. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Just one more game to talk about. That's Japan versus Sweden, and we will pick apart. So not Japan versus Sweden. Sorry, Australia versus France. So got Japan, Sweden on the brain. We've got Australia, France to pick apart, and a lot to pick apart there. But we'll do that right after this break.
Estonia again making extra time, deciding to go straight for goal. And England have the lead. Carney has scored. Great reaction. It wasn't the best piece of goalkeeping. Separately done. That is.
And welcome back to part 3. Now, as you may know from our previous pod, England beat Colombia to get to the semi-finals, but who would they face? It was going to be one of either Australia or France. And well, who could it have been? Who could it have been? Well, considering that the game was played beforehand, we actually already knew. France, talented team, furthest ever got before was the semi-finals in 2011. New coach, new direction, very exciting at this World Cup. Australia, host nation, struggled a bit at first, but warmed up as the tournaments progressed, and real momentum behind them now. Sam Kerr getting back into fitness, came off the bench for this one. I was very excited for this game. I thought these are the two titans, other titans in our side of the draw. If we're going to get to the final, we're going to have to, semi-final rather, we're going to have to play one of these teams to get to the final. So I thought this was two loggerheads crashing together, and of course when that happens is obviously going to be an 0-0 draw, which it was. Some interesting things popped up in this game. I was going to come to you, Matt. Firstly, Mary Fowler, she should have scored, shouldn't she?
Yes.
For the record, there was a bit of a mix-up in the defence and the goalkeeper. The ball came loose to Mary Fowler in the box, pretty much on the penalty spot. She just has to tap it into an empty net, and one of the French defenders, out of nowhere, slides across and makes an unbelievable goal line clearance. It's incredible, but Fowler should have scored, shouldn't she?
There's so many options she could have done. She could have just smashed it. She could have smashed it. She could have put it across because the French defender, I apologise, I've forgotten the name. She can just she's running in the direction just to put her thigh on it. But maybe it was a bit on nerves, if I'm honest. But yeah, Mary Fowler should have done better.
Mary Fowler, one of the stars of the Man City side under Gareth Taylor that never plays. I think she had a really good World Cup, and I think I wish she had scored because I think she would have deserved it. Meanwhile, for France, took the game to extra time. Lots of chances both ways. It was not a boring 0-0. It was edge of your seat 0-0. As someone who was praying for a 0-0, I really did think someone was going to score eventually, but did go to extra time. France had a goal ruled out. It was an Alana Kennedy own goal. It came from a corner. But there's more to it than that. Matt, I'm going to come to you. Just quickly pick apart what happened in that whole phase of play.
Well, it's two phases really, if you think about it, because first of all, France go right towards the edge of the box. They're driving through. The ball's gone out, but the ball's been crossed in. Australia clear it, goes for a corner. The corner comes in. Wendy Renard, as she has done it in Euros and many tournaments past, she goes up, heads it, and Alana Kennedy just unfortunately just sort of gets a touch on it and it goes in. The referee then, as they all do because of VAR, they go right, VAR check, and they've called it. The VAR's turned around and said, no, we're not going to give the goal because there was a push in there.
Yeah. So it's
a dodgy one. It
was a very strange one. It happened. What was surprised was how quickly it happened. The corner was never a corner. The ball had clearly gone out of play. I was mystified that it was given as a corner. As someone who was flying the flag for France for this one, because the ideal fate is they're playing a host nation in a semi-final is absolutely terrifying. I had sort of mixed feelings on this one. It was a dreadful decision to get the corner, and I think had the goal been allowed to stand, Australia would have some real genuine grievance, real sense of injustice. We're talking sort of hand of God 1986 sort of like refereeing cock-ups here. Alana Kennedy, most relieved player in Australia, the look of horror in her face when she thinks what she's done. Replay showed that actually behind her, Renard has shoved Caitlin forward, who's then gone into Alana, and Alana has unwittingly knocked the ball into her own net. Just calamities all round. it did go to a penalty shootout, and this was a penalty shootout loaded with narratives. And Coach Hervé Renard, who I think has done great things with the French team, Renard, I think you don't pronounce it, Hervé Renard, great things with this French team after Xhaka got sacked, really helped build up again, I think. But I think here he makes the classic football managing blunder, which is penalty substitutions. I hate penalty substitutions. Making some penalties I cannot stand because it always blows up in your face. I can only think of one time when it's maybe worked, maybe two, but most of the time the players that we bring on, they miss. We saw it in the USA game. With, I think it was it O'Reilly? Is it O'Hara? Was it O'Hara? I can never remember which one it was, but the crucial one that hit the post. She was brought on for a penalty. We saw at the men's Euros when the likes of Rashford and Sancho were brought on and they missed penalties in the final. So when he decides to sub Paul Impero-McGinn and bring on Salon Duran, and he withdraws Elisa de Almeida and brings on Yves Perisset, immediately I'm looking at those. Duran's the goalkeeper, so I'm thinking she's going to mess up some saves. And look at Perisset and I'm thinking, right, you're going to miss a penalty. You just know it's going to happen. I also thought Sam Kerr was going to miss the crucial penalty. I said that in the group chat because I thought the narratives were just loaded for the player who's hardly played at the tournament. It's in the poster goal and she's going to mess it up.
I don't mean to be funny, but it's Sam Kerr at a home tournament.
I know, and that's why I thought that it was the anti narrative and the tragic fall of the the schmuck that comes. She's been in the post goal tournament. She's never played. She finally plays, but I don't think any of us could have predicted what happened next. And I said that Sweden USA was the most bonkers, greatest shootout tournament so far. This was very much a case of hold my beer. We went to how many? Sorry, you mentioned a little. How many kicks did we go to on this one, Lottie? It was a record.
20.
We went to 20 kicks. 10 each. A World Cup record for the. I think it's the women's. I don't know if it's men and women or just women's.
I saw the stat on the FIFA Women's World Cup page. So just say
assuming women's for now. It was an unbelievable shootout, and to go through it, we're going to quickly go through player by player. So up first was Bakker, hit or miss.
Sorry, who?
Selma Bakker, first up for France, hit or miss.
Oh, that went in.
Yeah, goal.
No, it was a miss. She missed. First penalty, she looked up, look of terror on her face, and it was it was very clear it was 10 penalty. You can, when you look into an eyes of a player when they step up, you can usually have an inkling if they're going to miss or not. And I had no confidence in her, which is a shame because she's had a great World Cup. So France missed the first penalty. Ford steps up for Australia, hit or miss.
Goal.
She's red. She's
absolutely buries it. France on the board. Diani, hit or miss. Hit. Goal, absolutely right. She buries it. France on the board. Steph Catley, reliable taker, scored 2 already.
She's still wonderful though.
Yeah,
she's still
absolutely.
wonderful. Bit of a debate on
guide for her.
Steph Catley, 2 penalties scored already in this World Cup and missed this one. We've been saying she should be replacing Katie McCabe as the
absolutely
sub penalty taker. Still hold that.
Oh yeah.
Despite this, okay.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't as bad as Meadow Park.
No. So
sorry, Katie, we love you really.
Captain Wendy Renard steps up, experienced captain for France. Hit or miss? Did she score or did she miss?
That was a hit.
I think she missed it.
No, it was a goal. Renard scored to put France back ahead. Sam Kerr steps up.
Hit.
Yeah, she buries it. Actually, she was a bit lucky. The keeper, it wasn't the greatest penalty. The keeper shuffled her foot the wrong way, dived, nearly got her arm to it, but it went in.
Yeah. It basically went through her arms.
It did.
She hit it.
Lisa Moore scored.
Enough power. Lissamer, you going Lissamer hit, Lottie?
I did say hit.
Yeah, Lissamer scored. Mary Fowler.
Goal.
She did score.
Yes.
And now we get to, I think this is the sudden death moment. So three out of 4 scored each. Last 5 penalties. This was when the penalty shootout went mental. So Yves Perisset off the bench, brought on by Renard, specifically take a penalty. Hit or miss?
Miss.
Miss, Lottie?
Yes.
It was a miss. It was I think it was saved. I think it was in the end. It was either saved or hit the post, but it was her penalty that was not scored. Australia have the moment in front of their home fans to score the winning penalty, to take them through to the first ever World Cup semi-final, and who steps up to take it but Mackenzie Arnold, the goalkeeper.
That
And
was a
also-
massive miss.
That was and that and that was a massive
But do
miss.
you know what I was really worried about?
Yeah.
I thought that would have got in her head
I
and
had a
messed her up
feeling
for
that
the rest
would.
of the thing. Yeah.
Well, I thought the moment.
My question is, why can't she play like this for West Ham?
Very annoyingly, Arnold steps up, sends the keeper the wrong way. It cannons off the post. Firstly, I'm thinking, why on earth is the goalkeeper taking a penalty at this point in the thing? We're not even at the 10th position in the running. There are plenty of players who could take a penalty.
Alyssa Naylor did.
Well,
She had a good go at it.
she had a good go of it, but the problem is, I just think it is a massive gamble, and it was because it was the decisive penalty.
It works. Put it that way.
Yeah. If it works, it works. It did not work on this one, and I thought for that moment, when that moment blundered, I thought the momentum was all with France. I thought the moment Australia chucked that moment, I'm thinking John Terry, Champions League 2008. I'm thinking you had the winning kick, you've blown it, and it's going to swing the other way. Boy, was I wrong. Gory for Australia.
Goal.
You going goal?
Yeah.
Yep, was a goal. Gayaru.
Goal.
It was
Miss.
a goal. No, Gayaru did score.
Okay.
So then, so I've gone the wrong way around. Karachawi.
Miss.
No, Karachawi scored. Yallop.
Goal.
Yep, Yallop did score. Lacra.
Oh, I think she missed.
That was a miss.
No, Lacra scored. Carpenter.
Scored.
Yeah, Carpenter did score. There's quite a few interesting close moments. I do recall one that Duran had where she went the right way, got two hands to it, and it went through her hands. It was pretty much a save that would have, if she saved it, France would have gone through. And it was those half moments. It really worked against her. So up steps up Kenza Dali, who's did a brilliant World Cup for France, takes her penalty. What happened next?
Missed.
Yes.
It
As
was
much as we
saved.
love her.
It was saved, but the keeper was off her line, and so the penalty was retaken. So after the retake, miss or hit?
Missed.
Oh, miss.
It was a miss. She went the same
Yeah.
way, and the keeper actually got the save right. When you watch the replay back,
The thing
Arnold
is,
is.
I think that one was really interesting because obviously Mackenzie Arnold knows Kenza, and I think that got into Kenza's head after that retake.
From our WSL playing each other. I think it's a fair shout. I mean, she was well off her line when making the save.
Yeah.
But I always think it's been interesting is when you take a penalty and you have to retake it, it's do you change? Do you stick? I mean, we saw with Georgia Stanway, I think when she had a penalty against Haiti, she did the same thing again and got it right. Yeah, I think the keeper went the opposite way. This time, Arnold read it. So this time, all Hunt has to do is not do what Arnold did and actually score. It's a winning kick for Australia. She steps up. And does she score?
Yes.
Yes, Lottie? No, it was saved by by Durand, and we went round again. So Becco steps up. We're now at the bottom of the penalty shootout decision makers. I don't think Becco imagined she was going to score. She did. She hit it against the post. I think she hit the keeper wrong way, cannons off the post. So it all falls on. We talked about penalty subs. Temeka. So it fell on Courtney Vine, brought on in extra time, 104th minute, to send Australia to the World Cup semi-finals. Did she do it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, she did. It was a.
Of course she did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be saying we're playing them. Come on.
Eventually, she was the one that got it at the end. It took 3 attempts, which I think is just bonkers. England. I mean, imagine being an England fan and blowing 2 winning attempts. But they got over the line, Australia. And France go home. A good World Cup from them, some really good results. But again, it's an element of disappointment and underperformance. But this Australian, the momentum, it's carrying them forward. They had that fumble in the group stage with Nigeria. Didn't play well against Ireland, but they are starting to build up momentum, and it's building at home with the fans. And it's Australia versus England in the semi-finals, and I am bricking it. I don't know about you, but just the narratives. This is a team that beat Team GB at the Olympics. They're the only team to beat Serena Wiegman, beat him in that friendly. And since that friendly, we've lost the likes of Leah Williamson.
But I think you need to remember, this is competitive football, different ball game. So technically, they haven't beaten us at all. Technically. Although I know a few Australian fans that will argue with me.
Yeah. Well,
this is competitive football. The shoe is on the other foot now. Friendlies are friendlies. Don't count very much, and we know this.
I have seen some newspaper cuttings where people are talking about this being the true decider for the Ashes after we finish 2-2. We're going to decide it on a football match in England, Australia.
Absolutely.
And as Matt has mentioned on the previous pod, it's also where we won the World Cup in 2003. For the men's rugby union, it's
same stadium too. So
same stadium.
If that puts you at ease, if you're an England fan,
I'm very nervous about this because it is home nation, and we saw in the Euros how much being the home nation really helped England get all the way to Wembley and win. And now the boot is on the other foot, and now we are the ones going to the home nation's home ground and having to break their hearts. And I don't know, I'm sort of torn on this because I watched the Australia-France game and I thought, did Australia look that great? They neutralised France, but they didn't take any chance themselves, didn't score a goal. In fact, I don't think they've scored a goal in a World Cup quarter-final since as far back as 2003 or something like that, or even earlier. So I look at this and think, we could have a chance, but then again, we haven't been that great ourselves. To wrap this up, Matt, semi-final predictions. Can we beat the host nation and get to a final? A first ever World Cup final for the women's team, we should add.
Well, what's the saying? Third time's the charm.
It worked for Australia in the penalties.
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest. It's going to be a tasty affair. I just have a feeling that Australia might nick it. It's going to be small margins, but this is going to be a hell of a chess match. And no matter what happens, this is essentially what could have been a great final.
Yeah, unfortunately, the way the draw fell out in the earliest, we were going to play them a semi-final. I think it's going to be a brilliant game, and I think it's going to be Australia versus England is always a very emotionally loaded game, and I think this one will be no different. We did briefly cover predictions in the England pod, but we'll come back again to you, Lottie. I think we all know which way you think this is going to go, but just a quick one.
I'm gonna back the underdogs, and that is the England girls.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Steph, taking forward, we love you, but home allegiances have called me home.
I'm terrified of this game. I'm in a lucky position where I'm actually going to be able to watch it. I'm going to be listening on the radio in the office. I don't think I could watch a game like this, but I have Sky Plused it just in case. I so hope we can do it and beat Australia. But I just think that with the 12th player, the home crowd, and Sam Kerr coming back full fitness, I think that might just edge it. But if it's England, what I like about this England team is we've not been the fluent team we were at the Euros. We've not been the exciting, dominant, beat teams 8-0, 5-0, beating Sweden 4-0, that sort of team. But what we have been is dogged, determined, resilient, a real sort of fighting spirit. We've played ugly at times. China is sort of the celebration of our football. We could probably say all the other games we've had to dig deep, and the Colombia game is a perfect example where it's difficult for us to win, but we've made ourselves hard to beat with this back three formation. We're a bit more defensive, and we're a bit more about sort of controlling the games and neutralising opposition. And I'm intrigued to see if Australia, with that left flank axis of Ford and Catley, if they can't break us down, maybe we'll have a chance. But we've got to be so ruthless. Hemp and Russo have got to be so ruthless, and we've seen them fumble a few chances this World Cup. But I think it's going to be fascinating. And if we win, again, we saw how big the home Euros win was massive for women's football in our country. If we get to a World Cup final, it's only going to get further. But I would also say if we were to leave with a bronze medal like we did in 2015, I think that did wonders for our women's game. And I think considering the injuries we've got, the absentees, the suspensions, Lauren James won't be available for this semi-final either. If we were to come away with a bit of silver, even if it's just a bronze medal, I think we can leave with our heads held high. But that's not until next week. That's Tuesday. Tuesday will be Spain versus Sweden. Wednesday will be Australia versus England. We've got all that to look forward to, and we will be picking apart those two games as they happen. But that for tonight is the end. The end of the quarterfinals. The World Cup is almost over. Only a few games left. So it just leaves me to say farewell to my stupendous co-hosts, Lottie and Matt. Matt, where can we find you in the world of social media?
People can find me on Twitter at MattLR28.
And Lottie, where can we find you?
You can find me getting tormented by Adam on the podcast. Or at Lottie AWFC on, well, actually no, at Lottie_AWFC on Twitter and Instagram.
Absolutely. And you can find me tormenting Lottie and Matt and posting nonsense about Arsenal, the Arsenal women, Lionesses, etc. at Adam Salter 4. Do make sure you follow our official Vic Akers Wonderland podcast official Twitter account, where we'll be showing updates for all our pods. We'll be sharing out links after the show. But thank you once again for listening, for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, follow, and we will catch you on the next pod.